The stars stretched endlessly across the sky as the human starship Horizon approached Vera Prime. From orbit, the planet looked almost magical. Its surface shimmered with emerald forests, deep sapphire oceans, and faint golden streaks that glowed like sunlight trapped beneath the clouds. Humanity had been exploring the galaxy for decades, but Vera Prime was different. It was untouched, mysterious, and rumored to be the home of a highly intelligent alien species known as the Verons. Commander Aaron Cade stood at the observation deck, his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes reflected both awe and anticipation. He had led countless missions before, but the weight of this encounter felt heavier. This was not just another planet. This was a potential first meeting between humanity and a civilization as old as the stars themselves. "Commander," said Lieutenant Mara Jin, her voice calm but tinged with excitement. "Our scans show an enormous structure near the equator. It seems artificial. Its design is unlike anything we've seen before." Aaron leaned closer to the holographic display. The structure spiraled upward in smooth curves like a giant shell, yet glimmered with metallic colors that shifted with the angle of the sun. Surrounding it were vast gardens of plants that glowed softly in patterns, almost as if they were communicating with each other. "Prepare the landing team," Aaron said finally.
"We are going down."
"And remember, first contact is about patience and observation, not assumption." The shuttle descended slowly, cutting through the planet's thin atmosphere. As it approached the landing platform, the team could see figures waiting below. They were tall and slender, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered with faint bioluminescence. Their faces, though humanoid in form, had patterns and textures that seemed impossible. Large, luminous eyes reflected curiosity and caution. At the center of the group stood a figure taller and more commanding than the rest. Her presence radiated authority and power. This was Elithra, the alien queen of Vera Prime. The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss. The humans stepped out cautiously, their movements slow and deliberate. Commander Aaron raised a hand in greeting, and the Verons mirrored him with a subtle tilt of their heads. There was a silence that stretched long enough to feel almost fragile, filled only by the soft hum of the landing platform and the distant whispers of the glowing plants around them. Elithra's gaze fell on Aaron. She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke, her voice clear, melodic, and strangely comforting despite the alien quality to it. "You are different," she said. Her words carried no accusation, no hostility, just observation. Aaron inclined his head respectfully. "We are explorers," he said. "We come with curiosity, not conquest." Elithra's gaze flickered to his crew, noting the way they moved, the way they looked around with a mixture of caution and wonder. Then she nodded slowly. "Curiosity is rare. Many who visit my world seek only to take." A soft breeze moved through the gardens, making the plants ripple like water. The humans felt a strange calm, as if the planet itself was observing them. One of the crew members, Engineer Leo Tan, whispered to Mara, "It's like the planet is alive." Mara smiled faintly. "Maybe it is." Elithra finally gestured toward the entrance of the palace. "Follow, we will speak inside. There is much to learn if you are willing to see." The humans followed, stepping into the spiraling structure. The interior was breathtaking. Walls shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting light in endless patterns. The floors glowed softly, guiding their steps. Strange, translucent screens displayed shifting symbols. But when a human approached, the symbols rearranged themselves into forms they could understand. Technology here was unlike anything humans had imagined, organic, intuitive, and alive. Aaron could not hide his admiration. "Remarkable," he said under his breath. Elithra's eyes flickered at his words. "You appreciate without needing to dominate," she observed. "This is unusual." Inside the grand hall, Elithra turned to face the humans fully. "I am Elithra," she said, "Queen of the Verons, and yet I feel hideous." Her voice dropped, almost a whisper, carrying an emotion that was unfamiliar to humans. Self-consciousness, vulnerability. Aaron blinked. He had expected suspicion, curiosity, maybe even hostility. But not this. "Hideous?" he repeated carefully. "Yes," Elithra said. "My people see me as imperfect, flawed. They call me beautiful in public, but in truth I am considered grotesque." Aaron studied her for a moment. There was power in her posture, intelligence in her gaze, but also something else. A quiet sadness that did not come from weakness, but from expectation. He realized then that this alien queen, for all her majesty, bore insecurities similar to those humans felt every day. "I do not see you as grotesque," he said slowly, choosing his words. "You carry yourself with dignity and strength. Those are far more important than what any eye can judge." Elithra's luminous eyes widened slightly, and a faint ripple of color ran across her skin. "You do not lie." Aaron shook his head. "We value deeds, understanding, and courage more than form. Beauty is not what you are. It is what you create, the lives you touch, the choices you make." For a moment, there was silence. Then Elithra spoke again, her tone almost a whisper. "Humans are strange. Your kind smiles even when words fail. You see the world not as perfection or flaw, but as potential." The humans walked deeper into the palace. Each turn revealed new wonders. Gardens that grew upside down, light flowing like water, instruments that played music without visible performers. It was a world of art, science, and wonder intertwined, and yet despite the marvels, Aaron could not shake the feeling that Elithra's inner world was even more fascinating. They reached a room filled with large, transparent spheres, each containing tiny ecosystems. Veyran scientists studied them with precision. One sphere held glowing plants that responded to sound. Another contained miniature flying creatures that changed color with emotion. Elithra gestured toward the spheres. "These are our creations," she said. "We measure perfection in control, in symmetry, in precision. Yet, even here I feel something missing." Aaron stepped closer to a sphere containing a small plant that shifted colors as he approached. "Perfection without understanding is lonely," he said softly. "Your world is beautiful, but beauty comes alive only when it touches another heart." Elithra's gaze softened. She had studied countless species, yet these humans, so unpolished, so unrefined by her standards, spoke truths she had never known. Their courage, their honesty, their ability to smile in the face of uncertainty, it was disarming. The conversation continued as the humans were shown their quarters, modest yet comfortable by Veyran standards. Elithra asked questions about Earth, about human society, about what it meant to value imperfection and growth. Aaron explained how humans built friendships, how humor lightened fear, and how small acts of kindness could ripple outward into great change. By the end of the day, the humans were exhausted but exhilarated. Elithra, meanwhile, retreated to a balcony overlooking the glowing forests. She watched the humans laugh quietly as they unpacked, their gestures simple, unguarded, yet full of life. For the first time in centuries, she felt something stir inside. A recognition that perhaps her world could learn from these fragile yet indomitable creatures. That night, Aaron stood on his own balcony, staring at the alien stars. He thought about how little he truly understood about the universe, and yet, how much hope this encounter brought. In the distance, Elithra watched him too, wondering how one species could carry such warmth despite their physical fragility. It was a beginning. The first spark of a connection that could change everything. Humans had come to Veyra Prime expecting discovery, and instead, they had found something far more valuable, the possibility of understanding, empathy and friendship across the stars. And somewhere deep within, Elithra wondered quietly if perhaps humans had something to teach even a queen. The morning sun rose over the bioluminescent forests of Veyra Prime, bathing the palace in a soft, otherworldly light. Its rays refracted through the transparent walls, casting colors that seemed impossible to describe. The human crew of the Horizon woke with excitement and curiosity, each eager to explore more of this alien world. Commander Aaron Cade gathered his team in the observation lounge. "Today we begin learning," he said, his voice calm but firm, "not just about their technology or their planet, but about their culture, their values, and most importantly, their people. Remember, curiosity and respect will guide us further than force ever could." Lieutenant Mara Jin nodded. "We need to understand them without imposing ourselves. Even small mistakes could create tension." The team split into groups for the day's exploration. Engineers like Leo Tan were fascinated by the palace's energy systems and organic technology, while linguists studied Veyran symbols that transformed into human-readable patterns when approached. But it was Aaron and Elithra who carried the weight of the first real dialogue between their species. Elithra led Aaron through one of the palace's great corridors, her long fingers lightly brushing the walls. The walls pulsed with faint lights as if responding to her presence. "Humans are strange," she said, almost to herself. You smile at the unknown. You speak when you do not understand. You do not fear what you cannot predict. Why? Aaron looked at her, intrigued. We smile because it makes others feel safe. We speak because communication creates understanding. Fear is natural, but it is not always the best guide. Curiosity often serves us better. Elithra paused, tilting her head. In my world, fear controls thought. Strength is measured by dominance, perfection, and unyielding control. Chaos is unacceptable, and yet, your species thrives amidst unpredictability. You are not weak even when you seem fragile. Aaron smiled. Fragility is only one form of strength. Sometimes being flexible, adaptable, and open-minded is stronger than any weapon. They reached a chamber filled with floating spheres, each containing living holographic representations of planets, stars, and strange phenomena. Elithra moved her hand and the spheres shifted positions as if dancing in response. We measure beauty in symmetry and precision. Anything flawed is rejected or hidden, she said. Her voice softened as she added, Even I am judged by these standards. I am supposed to be perfect. And yet I am not. Aaron considered her words carefully. Perfection is an illusion. True beauty is how one moves through the world. It is how one chooses to act, to care, and to create. By those measures, I do not see hideousness, only strength, intelligence, and depth. Elithra's luminous eyes flickered with color, a sign of emotion in Veyron's. She studied him quietly for a long moment, as though trying to reconcile the human's words with her centuries of belief. Your kind challenges my understanding, she admitted. You value things not based on form, but on essence, on choices, on connection. Before Aaron could respond, a small commotion erupted near the palace entrance. Some of the human crew had encountered a group of Veyron guards. The guards' eyes glowed brighter, signaling alarm. One of the engineers, Leo, had inadvertently touched a control panel, causing it to emit a soft hum and a sudden burst of light. The guards moved forward, their elongated limbs tense and threatening. The humans froze. Aaron stepped forward, raising his hands in a peaceful gesture. We mean no harm, he said calmly. It was an accident. We are explorers, not invaders. Elithra appeared behind the humans, her presence immediately commanding attention. The guards hesitated, then lowered their stances. They understand, she said simply. They are not your enemies. Judge them not by instinct alone. The humans exhaled in relief. Aaron turned to Elithra. Your people are cautious, he observed. And rightly so. We are unfamiliar. But caution should not become fear. Elithra's expression softened. Caution is survival. Fear is self-limitation. Humans, you do not let fear bind you. Yet you are aware of it. This is remarkable. After the incident, Aaron suggested a walk in the palace gardens. The gardens were unlike anything the humans had imagined. Plants that glowed with shifting colors, flowers that opened and closed as if breathing, and vines that moved slowly, rearranging themselves to create patterns in the soft soil. Elithra led him to a pond that reflected the sky, but the reflection was not static. The water mirrored the humans' emotions, shifting colors with their moods. This is our way of teaching awareness, she explained. Our people value control, yet nature itself is unpredictable. We try to impose order, but even the smallest variation is judged as imperfection. Aaron knelt beside the water, watching his reflection shimmer with gold and blue as he smiled. Perfection in control is meaningless without understanding, he said. Even a world like this, beautiful as it is, only reaches its full potential when those who inhabit it embrace empathy and creativity. Elithra studied him silently. Humans, you see the world as alive in ways we do not. You understand connection, emotion, and consequence. Your species is adaptable. You survive not by strength alone, but by collaboration and compassion. A quiet smile crossed Aaron's face. That's what makes us human. We learn, we adapt, and we care, not just for ourselves but for others, even when it's difficult. Elithra's glow shifted subtly, a sign of thought. Perhaps, my people have misunderstood what is valuable. We seek perfection in form, but we ignore perfection in action. We have valued appearance over essence, power over understanding. Perhaps there is merit in your way. The day continued with lessons and explorations. The humans observed Veyron culture, their rituals, and their technologies. They noticed that the Varans were capable of extraordinary feats, but their obsession with control often limited creativity. In contrast, humans were imperfect, but their ingenuity and empathy allowed them to overcome challenges in unexpected ways. At one point, Elithra led Aaron to a library of glowing data scrolls. These scrolls contained knowledge accumulated over millennia. Yet Elithra confessed that much of the knowledge was trapped in rigid rules, valued for accuracy rather than usefulness. Aaron suggested alternative approaches, combining human adaptability with Varan precision. Elithra listened intently, visibly intrigued by these new perspectives. Meanwhile, the rest of the human crew shared meals with minor Varan officials. They exchanged stories, jokes, and simple acts of kindness. The Varans, initially cautious, began to relax, laughing at human humor and admiring the crew's ingenuity. One small gesture, a human engineer fixing a broken device for a young Varan child, was met with wide-eyed amazement. The humans were teaching not through words alone but through example. As evening fell, the palace glowed with the soft light of bioluminescent gardens. Elithra and Aaron walked along a balcony overlooking the forests. The wind carried a scent that was alien but not unpleasant, a mix of floral sweetness and metallic ozone. "You have shown me something I did not expect," Elithra said quietly. "That beauty can exist beyond appearance. That strength can exist beyond form. That understanding can exist beyond my perception of perfection." Aaron smiled. "It is only natural. You are a queen who has ruled wisely, yet even the wisest can learn. We humans are imperfect teachers, perhaps, but we can offer perspective." Elithra's gaze softened as she watched the humans below, tending to small repairs, sharing meals, and laughing quietly among themselves. She realized that their simplicity was their greatest strength. Their openness, courage, and willingness to connect had a power her people had long forgotten, the power to inspire and to transform. "And yet," Elithra murmured almost to herself, "I am still hideous." Aaron turned to her, his voice gentle but firm. "You are only hideous if you define yourself by others' expectations. By your actions, by your care, by your choices, you are more beautiful than you realize. Beauty is not the skin, the symmetry, or the surface. It is how you touch the world." Elithra looked at him, her luminous eyes reflecting the glow of the gardens. She did not respond immediately, but a quiet shift passed through her, the faintest hint of a smile forming on her face. For the first time in centuries, she questioned the rigid standards that had defined her existence. For the first time, she considered that perhaps she was more than the sum of her imperfections. The humans returned to their quarters later that evening, exhausted but exhilarated. They had experienced a world beyond imagination, and had made their first real impression on its ruler. Yet the most significant discoveries had not come from technology or architecture. They had come from connection, understanding, and perspective. Elithra remained on the balcony long after they left, gazing at the stars above. She thought about the humans, their courage, their laughter, their strange, resilient kindness. For the first time, she felt curiosity not as a ruler's duty, but as a genuine desire to learn. She wondered what it would mean for her people to embrace this perspective, to value essence over appearance, connection over control. Somewhere deep inside, a seed of change was planted. And for Elithra, that seed was more powerful than any weapon, any technology, or any tradition. The humans had arrived expecting to explore a planet. Instead, they had begun to explore a mind, a queen's mind, and perhaps, in the process, had begun a journey that could change an entire civilization. The stars over Vera Prime twinkled gently, as if in approval. And in tea, the sun rose over Vera Prime, casting long, colorful shadows across the palace gardens. Elithra stood on a high balcony, her glowing eyes focused on the distant forests. Today was not a day for observation or conversation. Today was a test, a challenge to determine whether humans could survive beyond the safety of the palace, in the wild and unpredictable terrain of her planet. "Commander Cade," Elithra's voice carried over the palace intercom, melodic but firm. "Your species will demonstrate its value not through words but through action. You will navigate the shifting biome, retrieve data from the obsidian tower, and return unharmed. This task is difficult. Many have failed." Aaron nodded, standing with his team. He had anticipated challenges, but Elithra's tests were more than physical. They measured ingenuity, collaboration, and adaptability. "We accept the challenge," he said. "We do not seek to impress, only to learn and succeed." Lieutenant Mara Jin checked the equipment. Scanners, comms, life support, all functioning. But the shifting biome is unpredictable. Terrain moves, weather changes suddenly, and some creatures are highly territorial. Engineer Leo Tan adjusted his pack. "I've seen some of the simulations. We'll need more than strength. We'll need observation, strategy, and maybe a bit of luck." The humans boarded a small, sleek shuttle designed to navigate Vera Prime's varied terrain. Elithra's observation platform watched silently as the shuttle lifted and descended into the glowing forests below. The shifting biome was a place of constant motion. Trees that moved, rivers that altered their course, and rocks that reshaped overnight. Many Varans considered it impassable, yet Elithra expected humans to attempt the impossible. The shuttle landed on uneven ground, and the team disembarked carefully. The air smelled faintly metallic, tinged with the sweetness of alien flora. Bioluminescent vines curled around the forest floor, responding to movement and sound. Even a single step could trigger sudden changes in the landscape. "This is incredible," Leo whispered. "It's alive." Aaron scanned the environment. "Stay alert. Observe first, act second. This biome is more than it appears. Every movement, every sound could trigger change." As they began moving, the forest seemed to respond. Trees shifted, creating new paths or blocking old ones. Glowing flowers opened and closed rapidly, signaling shifts in the environment. The humans quickly realized that brute force would accomplish nothing. They had to adapt, anticipate, and collaborate. After several hours, they encountered their first challenge. A wide chasm, too broad to jump and too deep to descend safely. Vines hung down like natural bridges, but many were unstable. "Careful," Aaron instructed. "Leo, test the support. Mara, guide us with the scanners." Leo stepped forward, testing each vine. One snapped under his weight, sending a small rock tumbling down into the chasm. Mara adjusted the scanners, identifying the most stable route. Together, they created a path across, using teamwork and observation rather than strength. Elithra, watching from the palace, allowed herself a rare moment of curiosity. Her glowing skin shifted with subtle color changes as she observed the humans navigating the challenges she believed would be insurmountable. "Interesting," she murmured. "They do not rely on power alone. They think, observe, and adapt." Hours later, the team faced a second challenge, a river of liquid crystal, shimmering and unstable. The surface was solid in appearance, but each step caused ripples that could destabilize the rest. Creatures with translucent bodies swam beneath, their presence both beautiful and dangerous. "We can't run," Aaron said. "We have to move carefully, slowly together. Everyone in sync." The humans synchronized their steps, communicating silently through subtle gestures and brief whispers. Every ripple threatened imbalance, yet they advanced steadily. At one point, a smaller creature leaped unexpectedly from the water, startling the team. Mara reacted instinctively, guiding the creature away without harming it. The team continued unbroken, demonstrating the human capacity for quick adaptation and empathy even under stress. By late afternoon, the humans reached the obsidian tower, a structure of black, glass-like stone rising sharply from the biome. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. Elithra had placed a data module at the top, a test not just of skill, but of observation and ingenuity. The climb was perilous. The tower's surface was smooth, and the gravity slightly variable, challenging human balance. Traditional tools were of limited use. Arin considered the surroundings and noticed faint grooves in the stone, natural climbing paths overlooked by most. "Follow me," he said. "These paths exist for a reason. Observe carefully and we can ascend without damage." Step by step the team climbed. Communication was precise, coordinated, and calm. When Mara slipped slightly, Leo caught her with minimal effort. Their teamwork and trust carried them through the challenges, showing not only intelligence but emotional cohesion, a trait Elithra had never fully understood in humans until now. At the top, Aaron carefully retrieved the data module, a small, glowing device that held centuries of planetary records. The module itself reacted to human touch, unlocking information instantly. The team marveled at the knowledge stored within, the history of Vera Prime, records of the biome, and observations of their own species. "This is incredible," Mara whispered. "We've only scratched the surface of what they know." "Not just the knowledge," Aaron said, holding the module. "Notice how it responds to cooperation, to careful thought, to empathy. They value the approach, not just the result." As the team prepared to descend, a sudden shift shook the tower. A portion of the biome beneath them moved, creating a deep fissure. Rocks tumbled and the ground shifted unpredictably. Humans could have panicked, but their training, observation, and collaboration allowed them to adjust immediately. Aaron guided the team down, using every ounce of coordination and calm judgment. Back on solid ground, they exhaled deeply. Each member had pushed past fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty. They had succeeded where many had failed, not through strength alone, but through careful thought, observation, and the uniquely human ability to work together under pressure. When they returned to the palace, Elithra awaited them. Her eyes glowed softly, her usual formality replaced with curiosity and a faint sense of admiration. "You have succeeded," she said. "Not through power, not through perfection, but through something unexpected, resourcefulness, cooperation, courage. Your species is remarkable." Aaron bowed respectfully. "We did not seek to impress. We sought only to do our best. The biome challenged us, but we learned. That is all we can promise." Elithra considered him quietly, her gaze lingering. "Most who fail never try to understand. They rely on strength, speed, or fear. You adapt. You think. You care. This is unusual, perhaps. You teach by being." The humans felt a strange sense of accomplishment, not from completing a difficult task, but from proving that their approach, their humanity, was valuable even in an alien world. They had faced a challenge designed to test survival, and in doing so had revealed a deeper strength, adaptability, empathy, and intelligence. As evening fell, the humans were escorted to the palace gardens for rest. Elithra walked beside Aaron, her thoughts heavy yet vibrant. "You are different from anything I expected," she said softly. "Your species survives not by domination but by understanding, by unity, by seeing possibility where others see impossibility." Aaron smiled. "We have survived not because we are perfect, but because we care for each other. We notice details, listen to one another, and act with intent. Strength alone is not enough. That is true everywhere, even on your planet." Elithra's glow shifted subtly, a sign of deep contemplation. "Perhaps my people have focused too long on form and control. Perhaps the way you live, the way you move through the world is a kind of strength we have overlooked. Something beautiful." Aaron's gaze softened. "Beauty is not what you see on the surface. It is in the choices you make, the courage you show, and the lives you touch. That is what endures." Elithra fell silent, letting the weight of his words settle. She had ruled for centuries, measured herself against impossible standards, and judged her worth through eyes that demanded flawlessness. Yet these humans, fragile in appearance yet resilient in action, had shown her a new perspective. That strength, courage, and beauty were not defined by form, but by heart. The stars began to appear in Vera Prime's sky, reflected in the glowing gardens. Elithra stood beside Aaron, both contemplating the vastness of the world and the potential for connection between their species. "The humans have survived the shifting biome," Elithra murmured. "Perhaps I have underestimated them, perhaps. There is much we can learn from one another." Aaron nodded, feeling the same sense of wonder he had felt upon first landing. Humanity had faced the unknown, embraced its challenges, and emerged not just unscathed, but wiser and stronger. And in that quiet moment, on a planet both alien and breathtakingly alive, a new understanding began to form. Humans were not merely visitors, they were teachers, explorers, and in ways Elithra had not expected, a source of inspiration. For the first time, she wondered what it would mean to lead not only with authority, but with understanding, and perhaps, just perhaps, the humans were already teaching her through courage, adaptability, and simple human grace that there was a different kind of power in the universe. The first test was complete, and it had changed Evie. The morning on Vera Prime was cool and quiet. The palace seemed almost alive, its walls pulsing softly with light as if breathing. Elithra had summoned Commander Aaron Cade to the central hall, a place humans had yet to fully explore. The hall's ceiling curved high above, filled with shifting colors that mimicked the sky outside. Every surface reflected light differently, creating patterns that seemed impossible to predict. "You requested a private discussion," Aaron said as he stepped inside. Bowing slightly out of respect, Elithra's luminous eyes studied him. "It is not merely discussion I seek," she said softly. "I wish to show you something significant. Something my people call the Mirror of Truth." Aaron's curiosity piqued. "Mirror of Truth?" he asked. "Is it a device or a symbol?" Elithra turned gracefully and led him toward a secluded chamber at the far end of the hall. The room was circular, walls smooth and dark, absorbing the light from the rest of the palace. In the center stood a large vertical surface that shimmered like liquid metal. It seemed to move, almost breathing, reflecting shapes in ways that were not entirely predictable. "This," Elithra said, "is not a mirror of appearance. It does not reflect skin, form, or structure. It reflects essence, the truth of one's mind, one's choices, one's heart." Aaron stepped closer. He saw his reflection, but it was different. His physical appearance shimmered and shifted until it seemed to dissolve. In its place, colors and shapes danced around him, forming patterns that he felt more than saw. The mirror displayed moments of courage, acts of kindness, and flashes of insight he had never considered significant. Every decision he had made, every choice to help, every risk taken to protect others seemed to glow softly within the reflection. He turned to Elithra. "It shows what matters most," he said. "Not strength or skill alone, but what you contribute to the world." Elithra nodded, her gaze softening. "Now you understand. My people value precision, symmetry, and form above all. Yet the Mirror of Truth reveals something deeper, something I have rarely allowed myself to see." She stepped toward the mirror herself. Her reflection shifted and changed, but unlike Aaron's, it was chaotic and jagged. Bright flashes of intelligence appeared, but they were tangled with shadowed areas of doubt, insecurity, and self-criticism. Elithra's gaze fell on the mirror. "This is me," she whispered. "I see wisdom, yes. Leadership, power, knowledge. But I also see my flaws, my fears, my mistakes. I see why my people call me hideous." Aaron watched her carefully, choosing his words. "Flaws are not the measure of worth. They are the measure of learning, of growth. Everyone has them, but that does not make anyone hideous." Elithra's eyes glimmered with an emotion that was almost human: hesitation, uncertainty, vulnerability. "And yet," she murmured, "how can one feel beautiful when surrounded by perfection? My people expect flawlessness. They praise me publicly, but they judge me privately, and I judge myself most harshly." Aaron stepped closer, his tone gentle but firm. "Queen Elithra, perfection is not what defines beauty. Strength, courage, compassion, understanding, those are what matter. The mirror shows your essence, and in your essence I see brilliance, wisdom, and care. That is beauty." For a long moment, Elithra remained silent. She studied Aaron, then her own reflection again. The chaotic shadows in the mirror seemed to soften slightly, swirling and blending with light, creating a balance she had never noticed before. She asked quietly, "You truly see this in me, even when I fail my own standards?" "I do," Aaron replied simply. "Because true worth is not perfection. It is the choices we make, the courage to face challenges, and the kindness we show even when it is difficult. That is what endures, long after appearances fade." The words seemed to settle something within Elithra. For centuries she had measured herself by rules she had never questioned. Now, a human, fragile by her standards, unpolished and inexperienced in her culture, was teaching her a lesson she had long forgotten. She turned to Aaron. "You're kind. You value actions above form, courage above flawlessness, and yet you are so small in comparison to the universe. How can you carry such strength?" Aaron smiled faintly. "We are small, yes, but smallness does not limit impact. Even the smallest act of courage or kindness can ripple outward and change the world. That is how humans endure. That is how we teach and learn. It is not about size or power, it is about heart." Elithra considered this carefully. Her gaze drifted to the mirror again. She saw her past actions, decisions made with authority and wisdom but always tempered by fear of judgment. She saw mistakes, moments of hesitation, and choices she regretted. Yet she also saw leadership, insight, and care, qualities she had never fully appreciated in herself. "Perhaps," she said softly, "I have misunderstood what is valuable. We have spent centuries teaching perfection as the highest goal. Yet it is not perfection that inspires or protects. It is understanding, connection, and choice. Humans, you show me that." Aaron nodded. We all teach one another in ways large and small. Sometimes the lessons are in words. Sometimes they are in actions. The mirror shows truth, yes, but understanding comes from empathy. That is why we can learn from each other. The conversation continued as Elithra led Aaron deeper into the hall, where smaller mirrors hung along the walls. Each reflected aspects of personality, choices, and relationships. She explained that the mirrors were tools, not punishments. They allowed the Vayrans to confront themselves honestly, to understand their strengths and weaknesses, and to grow. Aaron examined one of the smaller mirrors. He saw moments of hesitation, but also moments of inspiration and courage he had not realized shaped him. The reflection reminded him that even humans, despite imperfections, had resilience beyond measure. Elithra studied him again. Your species, it survives despite fragility, despite mistakes. You adapt, you endure, you grow, and yet you retain compassion, humor, and hope. How is this possible? Aaron looked thoughtfully at her. It is choice. We choose to care. We choose to learn. We choose to help one another. That is what gives strength. That is what gives beauty. The Queen's gaze softened further. I have ruled for centuries, guided by rules and expectations. Yet I have never considered that beauty might lie in choice, courage, and connection. Perhaps my people have been blind to this truth for far too long. Aaron smiled gently. It is never too late to learn, and it is never too late to change. You are not defined by what others say, or even by what you see in the mirror. You are defined by what you do, how you care, and how you act in the world. Elithra's glow shifted subtly, her emotions reflected in soft colors that pulsed across her skin. For the first time she felt not only understanding but relief. She had been judged for centuries, yet now a human, one who could barely comprehend her culture, was showing her that judgment was not the measure of worth. You speak truth, Commander, she said softly. I have lived too long under false standards. I have measured myself by rules that serve no purpose beyond control. And yet, you see what I am, not what I am not. That is remarkable. Aaron's expression remained calm. It is only natural. Every being has value. It is up to each of us to recognize it, in ourselves and in others. That is how progress, understanding, and beauty truly thrive. Elithra studied the mirror of truth one last time. Her chaotic shadows had softened into patterns of light and color, reflecting her strengths as well as her imperfections, but now as something to embrace rather than reject. She realized that true beauty was not about appearance or symmetry. It was about wisdom, courage, empathy, and the choices one made. You have taught me something I did not expect, she said quietly, that beauty exists in essence, in action, and in courage. That imperfection is not shame but potential, that perhaps I am not hideous after all. Aaron bowed slightly. You are not. You are a queen, a leader, and a being of remarkable insight. Your essence, your choices, your courage, these are what endure, and these are what are truly beautiful. For the first time in centuries, Elithra smiled fully. It was not the polite smile of a ruler, nor the controlled expression of perfection, but a true smile, soft, honest, and alive. The human had not only succeeded in communicating, but had opened her mind to a truth she had long denied. Outside the palace, Veyra shimmered under the alien sun. The forests, the rivers, the glowing mountains all seemed more vibrant, more alive. Elithra realized that understanding, empathy, and choice could transform even the most rigid culture. Humans, fragile and unpredictable, had revealed a path she had never imagined, and for the first time she allowed herself to hope. Not only for herself, but for her people. The mirror of truth had shown her who she truly was, and through a human's eyes she could finally see the beauty she had been blind to for centuries. The following days on Veyra brought a mixture of calm and tension. While Elithra reflected on the mirror of truth and the lessons from humanity, not all of her court shared her openness. Many Vayrans, especially the elders and high-ranking advisors, viewed the humans with suspicion. They saw the small, fragile creatures as intruders unworthy of trust. In the palace, whispers circulated through the corridors. Some Vayrans complained that Elithra's fascination with the humans undermined tradition. Others feared that her willingness to learn from outsiders would weaken her authority. Slowly, these murmurs grew into something larger, a conspiracy, subtle but dangerous, to challenge her rule. Elithra, aware of the brewing dissent, remained composed. She knew that leadership was more than power. It was wisdom, patience, and the courage to act when necessary, yet even she could not ignore the tension that rippled beneath the palace's calm surface. Aaron noticed the unease immediately. During a meeting in the central hall, several human crew members observed the subtle signals. The way some Varen's bioluminescent skin flared in warning, the rigid postures, the whispers that ceased when Elithra entered. "Commander," Mara whispered, "they are not pleased with our presence. Some are plotting." "I can feel it in the atmosphere," Aaron nodded. "Then we must act carefully. We are here to build trust, not escalate conflict, but we will not stand by while threats endanger the Queen or her people." That evening, Elithra convened a private council in the palace chamber. She explained the situation to Aaron. "Some in my court resist change. They see humans as a threat, not a lesson. They may act without warning if provoked. You must understand the danger is not from the biome or from nature, but from those who fear evolution." Aaron considered her words. "We can help, but not through force. Humans survive and succeed through understanding, strategy, and collaboration. We can show them a different path, through example, not domination." The first test of this strategy came sooner than expected. That night, a faction of Varen guards, convinced that the humans intended to take control, attempted to intercept a message Elithra planned to send to distant allies. Their aim was intimidation, but their presence was aggressive, and their glowing eyes flashed in anger and suspicion. The humans, who had been resting in their quarters, noticed the commotion. Aaron quickly assessed the situation. "Do not provoke them," he instructed. "We can resolve this without violence. Observe, communicate, and intervene calmly." Elithra approached the intruding guards, her presence commanding yet calm. "What is the meaning of this?" she asked. Her voice was firm, resonating with authority but not with anger. The guards flinched but did not retreat. "We protect the Queen," one of them said. "Humans are unpredictable. They may bring disaster." Aaron stepped forward slowly, hands visible. "We do not seek to harm. We are guests and we respect your world. But if conflict occurs, everyone loses. There is another way, through understanding, not force." Elithra added, "They have already faced challenges that would defeat the strongest among us. They succeeded not by power, but by cooperation and courage. They are not enemies," the guards hesitated. In Varen culture, acknowledgement from the Queen carried immense weight. Yet fear and suspicion were deeply ingrained. They struggled to reconcile their loyalty with the unusual actions and calm confidence of the humans. Aaron took a careful step forward. "If you allow fear to dictate your actions, you will not protect the Queen nor your people. Observe, learn, and act with wisdom. That is true strength." Slowly, the guards' glowing eyes softened, their posture relaxing. The tension in the room decreased, replaced with a cautious curiosity. Aaron's words had not commanded obedience, but they had inspired reflection. The humans were teaching, not through authority, but through calm, reasoned example. The next day, Elithra arranged a demonstration in the palace gardens. The humans worked alongside Varen guards and scholars, showing how collaboration and observation could solve problems that force alone could not. They navigated a simulated biome, rescuing holographic creatures, crossing shifting terrain, and using minimal tools with maximum creativity. The Varens observed closely, their skepticism gradually replaced by intrigue. They realized that the humans' approach, careful, deliberate, and empathetic, enabled them to succeed where brute strength would have failed. Elithra watched silently, her glow pulsing softly in approval. "See how they think, how they act," she said to the observing faction. "They do not dominate. They adapt. They protect. This is strength beyond muscle, courage beyond form." Even the most skeptical elders could not deny what they saw. The humans were small, imperfect by Varen standards, yet they demonstrated intelligence, resilience, and teamwork. They were a mirror to the Queen's own teachings, proof that wisdom and collaboration could triumph over fear and rigid expectation. That evening, a meeting took place in Elithra's private chamber. The faction that had opposed the humans now approached her cautiously. Their bioluminescent skin flickered with subtle colors, a Varen signal of hesitancy and reflection. "You value these humans," one elder admitted. "But their ways are strange. Their presence challenges our traditions. How can we be certain this approach is sustainable? Elithra's gaze was steady. Sustainability is not in adherence to tradition alone. It is in adaptability in learning and in courage. They have succeeded where many of you would have failed. That is proof enough. Aaron added gently. We are not here to replace your traditions nor to lead. We are here to demonstrate possibilities. How intelligence, cooperation, and empathy can solve problems that fear and rigidity cannot. That is all. Slowly, the elders' skepticism softened. They began to see that the human's success was not a threat, but a lesson, an example of strength expressed differently from anything they had known. In the following days, humans and Vayrans worked together more openly. Humans helped map shifting areas of the biome, design sustainable tools, and mediate minor disputes among Vayrans. Each interaction further demonstrated their adaptability and intelligence. Even minor gestures like sharing simple meals, explaining human humor, or helping with small repairs carried profound impact. The humans taught by example, showing that courage, compassion, and careful thought could influence even a culture as rigid as the Vayrans. Elithra observed these interactions with growing admiration. They are not strong like we are, she said quietly to Aaron, but they influence, teach, and inspire in ways I had not imagined. Aaron nodded. That is humanity. We survive not because of physical superiority, but because of our capacity to learn, adapt, and connect. By the end of the week, the faction that had opposed the humans had softened considerably. Their actions shifted from subtle obstruction to cautious cooperation. They observed, questioned, and learned, gradually seeing that the humans' approach offered something valuable, not only to Elithra but to Veyra Prime itself. A quiet celebration took place in the palace gardens. Vayrans and humans moved together, sharing stories, laughter, and observations about their respective worlds. Elithra joined Aaron and his team, her glow warm and steady. For the first time in centuries, she felt a sense of balance, not through perfection or control, but through understanding, choice, and trust. Your people have shown me something remarkable, Elithra said to Aaron, her voice soft yet firm. Even in opposition, they learn when guided with wisdom. Your example has opened minds and hearts. That is beautiful, Aaron smiled. We all have lessons to learn, Elithra, and sometimes the smallest actions teach the greatest truths. Humanity is not perfect, but we strive, we care, and we learn together. That night, Elithra stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing forests of Veyra Prime. She reflected on the week's events, the mirror of truth, the biome challenges, and the quiet revolution happening within her court. Humans, fragile yet resilient, had not only survived her test, but had reshaped her people's understanding of strength, courage, and value. A seed of change had taken root in the palace, one that would grow beyond fear, beyond rigidity, and beyond the old definitions of beauty and perfection. Humans had shown that even small, imperfect beings could inspire transformation through patience, empathy, and intelligence. Elithra looked at the stars, her glowing eyes soft with contemplation. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope, not only for her people but for the possibility of new alliances, understanding, and growth. The humans had arrived expecting to explore, but in doing so, they had become teachers. In that quiet moment, she realized that leadership was not only about power or control. True leadership, true strength, lay in understanding, in guiding with wisdom, and in learning from those who saw the world differently. And humanity, in its fragile, unpredictable way, had taught her that lesson beautifully. The palace was calm, yet the air carried the promise of change. The first sparks of a new era were igniting, an era shaped by courage, empathy, and understanding. Humans had proven their worth not through dominance, but through the quiet, persistent power of heart and mind. Veyra Prime had been tested, and through the humans' actions, it had begun to learn.